Okay, good evening all. I have G0MJW who's going to go first. Mike, if you can get yourself ready. G3XOU, Dave, very good evening to you. First time seeing you on. G7JTT, John, followed by G7NTG and G0DQH. Good evening to all the watchers. I see Nigel, Tim, David, G6GZH there as well.
Would help if I turned on the microphone. That's better. Yeah, there seems to be another signal on the transponder, so I just thought I'd transmit a bit more. Yeah, still there. Anyone receiving my pictures? I'm receiving my pictures, but that doesn't mean anything. $875, Dave. Hang on. Right, okay, anyone who's watching, it's an out-of-band signal, so what we'll do is we're going to QSY down one channel to 875.
Now I've just got to get my rides down there. This is G8GKQ and the BATC Net. Hang on a minute, I'm just going to make sure I can see myself because I can't at the moment. Okay, I've got me. So that's a start. QO100 custom on the Ryde. Okay. So I have the streamer running. Let's kill that. Kill the audio on that one. I think we're going to lose a few here, but at least we have the net running on 0.875. Parish notices, I'll repeat these next time so that we catch everybody. But don't forget, this weekend is a 437 and 146 activity weekend. There's a Ryde update went out earlier this evening, which gives a few extra features. I'll put something on the forum about it after the net. And we hope to get CQTV out this coming weekend. That's been quite a lot of work, but it's come together quite well. So really pleased with that. The order will be G0MGW, G3XOU, G7JTT, G7NTG, G0DQH and HB9DUG. Michelle, good evening. So that will be the order. So without further ado, we'll put it round to Mike and I'll type some stuff in the chat. G0... Oh, who's he? GTZ. Right, you're after Michelle at the end then. No. Let me write that down, otherwise I'm going to forget it. Not that you'd ever forget me in the net. Right, G0MJW and the group G8GKQ.
Right, let's see if I come up on frequency. We might need a bit more power. Right, that's fairly convincing. Turn down the feedback. Hopefully there won't be any audio problems. Let's just make sure. Yeah, that sounds okay to me. Right, good evening everyone. It's a bit confusing there with all this going side to side and stuff. Running quite high power at the moment, so I'll just drop it back a bit just to get within the bounds of reasonable. Hopefully everyone can copy. If not, you need a bigger dish. Right, what can I do really? Just a few things, not a lot. Has been happening this week because it's been really quite busy work-wise. But I was showing this earlier on. This is the bench. We ought to have a session, what's on the bench or something, so that we can all talk about things. We've had AVOs, we've had RF power meters, spectrum analyzers, I don't know, bicycle maintenance, whatever. All of these things could go into different sections on the net maybe. I'm just looking to see what's happening on the satellite, and there's quite a few people on. Anyway, just to explain what you're looking at, there's the Winter Hill, which I'm just about to test for Brian with some new software, but I realised that I haven't got anything plugged into it by way of monitor and keyboard, so I can't really do his tests yet. In the middle, at the bottom is a filter, which I'm building for a 4 and 6 metre PA. I had one of these W6PQL filters for 6 metres, so I need to find 2 more capacitors, 50 picofarads. So I've ordered some ATC ones. These are Semco capacitors, but I've ordered some ATC ones. And hopefully that'll work as a low-pass filter and keep us legal. Above that is a very old 2.4 gigahertz, what do you call it? I don't know, Comtech module maybe. Transmit and receive, which I've got, which I don't need anymore. But I seem to remember failing to get rid of it at the Didcot Rally. And on the far side is the PA that I'm building the filter for. And that is from Russia. They're still on eBay. They're about $200. And they seem to generate 450, 500 watts of 6 meters or 4 meters. Nice big solid copper plate. And the idea of that is not to run that much power on 6 or 4 meters, but to use it for DVB-T. So turn the bias up and maybe get 50 watts out of it, hopefully, using the MRF 300 transistors. So we'll see if it works. I'm hopeful that it will. So that's what that's for. Yeah. Other things that turned up this week, I don't know if anyone's seen any of these things. Anyone got one of those? They're remarkably good and they're not very expensive. Shortwave receiver. So I made a stand for that. And this turned up as well. I don't know if anyone's ordered one of those, but they're quite nice soldering irons. They're very cheap, $25 I think. They use a 24 volt, or actually 21 volt USB supply, and it's a directly heated tip, so it's very good for doing surface mount work if anyone's interested in doing surface mount. Anyway, I've had far too long already, so let's pass on to next person, which is G3XOU. So G3XOU G0MJW.
Right, apologies for that. I forgot to actually switch the transmitter on, doing the bias, and nothing was happening, and I realised I hadn't actually turned um, the pulse down on. So anyway, right, why am I not getting myself at the moment? Anyway, I think it's going out. Right, very good evening all. Trust everyone's well. All the suspect. Yeah, it was a bit suspect with me for some reason, right? I don't know why that was. I just realised I'm on the wrong thing. Right, there we go. Right, anyway, good evening all. I, as always, very tired. Had the old AstraZeneca thing. Where are we? Yesterday. I won't focus on where I am now. So I've got my badge. It's a bit of fun. But yeah, I feel a bit grotty today. I was fine yesterday. Woke up this morning fine. But I think just as the day's gone on, I feel that sort of thing you get just before you start feeling fluey. I'm hoping tonight it will pass, but otherwise tomorrow will be an even longer day. So hopefully that's the case. Right, what else have I done? Not a lot really. As always, it's just work. Well, I did cut the grass finally. The problem was it was old age. I know. It got to the point where every strip you cut, you had to empty the box. Problem is, it's yeah. I'll make excuses. I hate cutting grass, as I guess most people do, but right, it's worse. Well, we've had some guys at work actually. There was one guy. He went in and he was fine. He went to bed. He was fine. He woke up in the morning and couldn't move. And he was off for nearly 3 days, I think, before he got well enough to come back again. The others have gone in and absolutely nothing. So I'm kind of hoping that I say a good sleep tonight will hopefully just wear it off. Anyway, we sound like an 8 meter net, so I haven't really got anything else to add. I'm just looking around desperately trying to find something to show you. Other than one thing I will say is I've just played around with some settings at the moment. So I'm using low latency HQ, high quality preset, and it's also 10-bit as opposed to 8-bit H.265. So it'd be interesting to see if it's without changing it back, we won't know the difference, will we? So, but anyway, all right, round to Jim. Hopefully, you've got something more interesting to show and tell. G7 NTG in the group, G7 JTT.
Let's see if this works. It's good fun tonight, isn't it? Every time somebody doesn't transmit, it latches onto the next channel, and it's not as easy to retune when you're on a different channel. I must put this channel in on the memory so that I can do it quickly. Anyway, sorry about the audio noise. I'm trying a different microphone to see if the lip sync's better. I'm using a Picam with a USB mic and a Pluto. I finally got the Pluto going, with very many thanks to everybody that helped me with that. Got to the bottom of it and did it carefully again, and this time it works, so I'm very pleased with that. Don't think the picture seems a bit more blocky on the moving bits, but the background doesn't look too bad. I know the audio is very noisy with all the fans because the microphone is not the best. I will work on that and hopefully have it a lot better next week. I just wanted to see if lip sync was okay. Just have a look to everybody's head. Oh, okay. Right, yeah. Apparently it's not too bad, but sorry about the background noise. I will get rid of it. At the moment, the microphone is not really designed for this sort of work. It's a Shure SM58, and they're designed for stage use on very close proximity and screaming into it. Not designed for long range, and because it's a cardioid, it picks up everything. All the fans miles away. It's very sensitive. But anyway, that all seems alright. Right, I'm going to hand it on now to G0DQH. So round to you from G7MTG.
We got audio. Right, I'll mute that. Yeah, good evening all. Thanks very much for letting me in. Sorry about the problem before. Finger trouble at my end actually, but anyway, all sorted out now. And nice to hear. I hope the audio's okay. It looks a bit heavy actually on here. Let me just turn it down a bit. Turn it down on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay. I'm still getting to grips with this lot. I've only recently finished putting it all together, and so it's I'm using vMix at the moment for the video source with an HDMI to IP converter and then a Jetson Nano to generate the H.265. It's basically a nano box, but spread out. Best way of describing it. Anyway, I'm very new to DATV. I've been playing about with it for a few weeks, trying to sort one or two things out. But anyway, hopefully you're getting reasonable audio and video from me. Just to go through one or two things here, I'll just crossfade to the antenna I'm using, which is 2.4 metre, 1 metre parabolic, and that's just outside where I can see it. One of the things that's been bothering me a little bit is the new EMF regulations, and how on earth we're going to work it out with particularly the 2.4 gigs, of course, and the ERPs that we're effectively running. And obviously the figures that Ofcom have got in are based on horizontal upright, whereas we're at about 30 degrees. So I'm looking at the side lobe response on typical antennas, and it's about 20 dB down at that point. But anyway, I don't know whether anybody else has got any ideas on that one. Next shot is let's move along one. G3RUH feed on the dish works very well, and had no problems at all with it. Nicely engineered. And that's the setup with the Jetson Nano. I'm using the Portsdown 2020 with the Raspberry Pi 3 on that one, and Lime SDR Mini coming out at under 430 megahertz, and then going into a SG Labs transverter, and then out to the PA, which is a 100 watt amplifier made up of various bits and pieces. The Andrew modules seem to work very well. There's very little to do on them apart from tweaking the input trimmers for best input return loss. And at the moment I'm running about 50 watts into the antenna there, and that's the setup just in the outhouse here where the freezer is, and the antenna's just outside that. So that's a quick rundown on the setup. I'll put it back onto my mug shot there. So I'll pass it on to, I think it's the Hotel Bravo 9 station, is it there? My bit of paper. Right, HB9DUG to take it. This is G3X.
interesting. One of those nights. I think, yes, I just turned it down, mate. I think it's actually it must be almost a year since we started doing this. So we've been lucky not to have channel occupancy problems up until now. So yeah, but anyway, pretty good and interesting stuff. Jim, glad you got your Pluto working. Yeah, I wasn't expecting a more modern revision of hardware when I ordered mine. Came in 48 hours from DigiKey, and turned out to be software or firmware Rev C and hardware Rev D, which means on the board it's got sockets for external clock, and I also believe the USB hardware mod has been done as well, so could save a bit of work. Good. Okay, a couple of things to comment on. I see Ofcom sold some more Spectrum this week. If anybody gets upset that we get intruders or we suffer on 70 cents from the interference that we do, the pricing on some of that stuff is about £14 million a megahertz. So that makes 70 cents quite valuable. So I guess we just have to take it, and that's it. Okay, what have I been doing? Been doing a bit of gardening, bit of twiddling with 47 gigs, trying to get wave-fired flangers working. But the most success this week has been on the big porch down. Now, everybody complains that their porch down isn't big enough, so I put mine in a really big box. So that is, yeah, doesn't show up particularly well on the after it's been coded, but that's a Schroff 19-inch rack and a porch. I have to admit, all that the porch down does is light up the screen at the moment, but there's a big 29, 50, 70 and 144 meg PA in there, 77 PA, 23 7 PA, they're all physically in there, but nothing is really wired up. Unfortunately, I made a bit of an error. I was really pleased because I hate cutting front panels and things, and I thought I'd been through that and corrected it. Let's have a check. I just worked out that's a 4x3 camera. This is a 4x3 camera. So yeah, that's the problem. So I hate metal work, and I thought I'd done really well with that one. Then I realised that the other week I bought myself one of these voltage, current and voltage displays, and I forgot about it when I drilled the front panel. So I think I've worked out that I can get it there somewhere. It won't look too bad. Oh, there's going to be a tuning knob for the Langston there, but that's the plan. So, but yes, rather unfortunate I forgot the voltage and current meter, which is really annoying. So there we go. Yes, Dave said CQTV, we've been doing a few articles. It should be out soon, probably by the weekend. For those who are listening who are interested, I emailed Serret earlier this week, and they said they're building, actually today they were building the Serret, the 4762s today. So I would expect that if all goes well, we'll probably have them by the end of next week. PCBs are in there and USB modules are in there if you want to get ahead and build the board. But the tuners hopefully will be in end of next week, beginning of beginning of the week after, provided that Seric follow my instructions and ship them via DHL and not FedEx. If they've shipped them via FedEx, we could probably expect them by Christmas. Yeah. Anyway, so there we are. That's what's going on here. Oh yeah, so has anybody got any ideas on a high power 77's low pass filter that I really need to put in the back end of the amplifier? I wonder if anybody's got any thoughts on that. They seem to be quite expensive to buy. I'm sure I could build one. Right, so round to GI4DOH. So to take it, G8G.
From GI4DOH with the group, thank you, Noel. And just check in, yes, I have got audio there. Yeah, I think I missed the last week or possibly 2 weeks. Our local club meeting is on the first Thursday of the month, which inconveniently clashes. I think the last time I was on, somebody was talking about using a 3D printer to print a little holder for power pole connectors, and I found this design online. The thing in its favour for this particular design is it's about a 22mm hole, and I happen to have a 22.5mm QMax cutter, so that sealed it as to which design I was going to use. Another nice thing that arrived in the post today, again, last time I was on, there was talk about power supplies. I got this from James DQH. Arrived very well packed and everything today. So I think the next task will be to print some little feet for it to keep it off the stop it from scraping the worktop. I note that it's got M4 size holes on it with plenty of depth. I don't think there's any danger of a screw going in too far and actually catching anything. And I had a bit of a panic, as usual. Always do, despite the plans to get everything organised in plenty of time. I had started up everything. I had checked that everything was going okay on another channel a little bit before the start of the net. I went and made myself a cup of coffee, and then I tried plugging in this little Bluetooth earpiece that I got a week or two ago for actually for DMR, for use with the DMR rig for when I'm mobile. And that's when things went wrong, and I couldn't get back to using the headset either. That didn't seem to have any audio on it. Then I noticed that the little symbol was up that Windows wanted to do a restart. So this isn't the fastest of PCs, but I felt while you know that Windows is in the process of doing an update, there's not a lot of point in trying to fault find anything, so just let it go through with that. So that's why I missed the start. Michelle, you were sort of borderline with me. Sometimes I had you, sometimes I didn't, and as Dave pointed out, the streamer, of course, had you okay. So that's enough from me for this round. I think actually just keep an eye on the screen. I think it's back round to you now, Dave. I don't think anybody came in after me. Just trying to read the words on the screen there. So G8 GKQ with the group. This is GI4DOH.
Okay. I think I think Dave very kindly slotted me in after you, Richard. And it's I think James is back in operation as well after me. So very good evening all. And well, I feel quite guilty because I've got nothing particularly radio to show this evening. On the other hand, I've been engaged knocking an old workshop down at the end of the garden and clearing a site to build a much bigger workshop so that all this hideous clutter, one day you won't have to put up with that on your screens, hopefully. And I've shifted literally tons of concrete that I had to break up with a concrete breaker, wheelbarrow it up my long garden to a skip, and I'm on my second skip now as I dig the earth out. So I've really done my back in. It's not good. Anyway, yeah. So Mike, what's on the bench? Nothing particularly worth looking at. Although there was one thing that did cheer me up a bit that turned up in the post yesterday, which it wasn't that. This is my vehicle tax reminder. Look at that, 12 months nil. I don't know if you can see that very well. Probably not. That's my old MGB. Unfortunately, it was accompanied by one that wants 330 quid a year for my other car. So I wasn't cheered up for very long. Just quickly then. Oh, John. Like Richard, I couldn't get Michelle at all. I must do something about this because I've got a 1.1 meter dish and I wasn't able to decode Michelle. But luckily, John, JTT, and your VLC quad program came to the rescue, so I was able to watch Michelle on that. So I've christened that this evening, John. That works really well. So I'm very impressed with that. I had my COVID jab 2 days ago, and so far no effects whatsoever. So I'm wondering whether it's actually done anything. I'm glad you got your Pluto going, Jim. And sorry, I'm just G0NMY Mark. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. The audio is a bit out of sync, but you're going to address that and the noise in the background. James, we know about that. Oh, and G3XOU, Dave, very good evening to you. I don't think we've worked on DATV before. I'm fairly new to it as well, I have to say. And interesting, you've done some measurements on the side lobes for our EMF calculations. Michelle, that gear looked really nice. But so I'm getting you a D minus 1.4. So I had a good look at my dish as I was going up and down. Well, I was resting going up and down the garden. And I have a feeling the boom might be slightly skew whiff, but I'll have to address that later. And Noel, I wonder, is it random whether you get the new version of Pluto or not from people like DigiKey? Because they seem to have got 1,000 or 1,000 in stock. So I wonder if they're all the new version. Might be tempted one day. And the big ports down looks excellent with all the amplifiers in it. And I like the power pole connector, Richard, and the reference to QMax cutters. I've got a nice collection of those as well. Right, I think that'll do for me. Any notes? Mike, yes, I am using a potty to your design. I think I've got 3mm exactly. So any tips you might have for that, I'll be received gratefully. I'm using an Octagon LNB, which I am using an external GPS locked source for it, so there may be some phase noise, although I don't think so. I've done some quite careful measurements on that. Right, so round to you, James. G0. Sorry, Mike. Yeah, I have got a lens as well. And it's you next, James. So when you're ready, G0 DQH, G4 Foxtrot Kilo, standing by.
Okay, just check to see if I've got audio this time. Brilliant. I don't know what it was. I know Windows did an update last week, but I did go into settings and play around, so it looks as if that did the trick, thankfully. And there you go. I'm pleased. Right, that I didn't break it. Okay, a couple of things that came along this week. I came across a couple of old photos that you might be interested in. Jim and I were talking about this earlier before the net at 8 o'clock. And let's put the right one on first. So I was taken about 15 years ago. The HF transceiver is a TS130S, and the 2-meter radio is a Yaesu. And I think that was about 15 years ago. Anyway, I was very active on HF radio in my earlier days, and this is my first attempt at a linear. And this was class AB1 with a pair of 4CX250s. I never operated on anything other than 20 meters in those days, so I didn't need to retune it every time. So it was on the floor, and I used to warm my feet on that when it came on TX. And I lived in a village just outside of Overcombe, so didn't cause any interference to anybody, thankfully. I think there was about 11 to 1200 volts on the two 4CX250s, and it worked well. Just above the black transformer you can see the stud xenodials. There was 4 of them to give the stabilised 300 volts to the screen grids on the valves. And the 2 meters at the front, they were mandatory really to set up the standing current and the 2 valves. I think they were set at 55 milliamps each. And on TX, of course, the bias on the valves went up to about minus 150, which cut the valves off and gave it time to cool down before we transmit again. Anyway, that was the first attempt, and it worked well. And then I went on to building a grounded grid design. And this, they're not the right valves, by the way. I bought a pair of 4-400s, I'll get it right in a minute, pair of 4-400s, and with 2,500 volts on each plate. And there was nowhere in the world I couldn't get with that on HF on 20 meters. I moved up this way to Hampshire, and it was put in the cupboard and hadn't been used for 25 years. But I passed that on to a radio ham at work when he reformed the caps, and he's having great fun with it at the moment. So I'm pleased it was passed on to somebody that was going to actually use it. So that's about it really. And this is one last thing I think was, this is what I work on at work. It's the max tester for BT. The BT engineers use these for testing the lines. Anyway, there you go. So find the right picture. There we are. Okay, that's about it from me tonight. I won't come back the second time, although it's 10 to 9 now. So the audio was sorted out, thankfully, and hopefully I'll see you all next week. This is G0DQH, About 5 miles north of Southampton City.
G0DQH and the BATC Net G8GKQ. Okay, James, yeah, audio was slightly low there, but good to see all the power amplifiers. I'll let you have a look at the clutter on the bench for a while I talk. Dave G3XOU, that's a really nice Portsdown setup there. Good to see all the nano and everything working. Really impressive. And Michelle, repeater build. Again, some really impressive construction there. Not sure you can see anything as good from this end. EMF measurements, Dave. We have been discussing this. We are hoping to come up with a profile for a 2.4 gigs dish and what you need to do around it. So we are working on it. We've got a bit of time to actually get the formalities done, but to come up with some guidelines anyway. I did mention it at the start, but some of you might have missed it. This weekend is a 146 and 437 meg activity weekend, so please, I'll turn the audio down, my apologies. So please try and get on the air. And I put out a new Ryde update earlier in the evening. Among other things, that has the Ryde utilities, which you can use for programming FTDI USB modules or controlling the receiver from the keyboard. It also has a stream viewer with low latency, so you can watch the stream on your Ryde screen. They're both in the console menu. Okay, let's have a look at the bench here, what's going on. I'm just going to take it round to the right. Okay, so we start there with the spectrum analyzer turned off, past the power meter, past the laptop that's doing OBS. Behind the laptop is the noise figure meter, and on the top there's a frequency meter and a scanner. Then if I bring this in a little bit, sorry. A lot of activity this last week has been working on this device here, which is the Winter Hill. Getting a decent software build going for it. That's got the 2 tuners on it, the Raspberry Pi, and they're thread through a splitter from my 4 RF feeds from my dish. Next to that is the BATC's Portsdown 4, the one that's built to go to rallies when we're allowed to go to rallies. Recent addition to that is a Lime SDR in a box on the end. And I'm doing some work looking at improving video out of easy caps, hence there's a big easy cap over here, not very clear there. In the stack over there with the lamp in front of it, there's the Portsdown that's actually doing the transmitting. Using OBS and IPTS input. Going further round into the dark, past my main computer, and then onto this Ryde receiver here, which is doing the streaming. Underneath that, in the rack, there is a little box which has got a LKV373 and a router in it. And actually it's the Ryde processor does the streaming. And that's the really nice HD display for it. Yes, John, it has grown a little. I won't show you the other end of the shack, which is even worse. But there we go. Right, if I put that round, we get a very scary picture. Oh, there's the other end of the shack, but there we go. And a man who needs a haircut. So, some good stuff going on tonight. Back round to Mike, and then I'll type up the order, but it'll be Dave G3XOU after Mike to go straight back into the original order. So G0MJW to take it, G8GKQ.
Right, what's the chance of me coming up on the right frequency using the right power? Oh, gosh. Right, what's the chance of me coming up on the... It worked. Right, yeah, so a few comments, lots of really interesting things there. Michael, those repeaters look wonderful. Michelle, rather, those repeaters look wonderful. Next time I'm in Geneva, if there is a next time, I must go and have a look at that, because they can't be that far away, if I can find some way to get there. So definitely look at that. Right, what's showing you here? This is on my webpage. Some idea of how you might perhaps do some calculations, but we'll do that properly at some point and write it up. But the real issue here is that you're in the near field of the dish, and there are several ways to look at this, but just come here. I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can, anyway, with all the receivers behind it. What happens to the PFD in the region close to the dish? So the far field depends on the dish size and the wavelength, but for a reasonable sized dish it's significantly far away, or sufficiently far away. For a 1.2 metre dish, for example, it's about 23 metres away from the dish. The field strength hits a peak though at about 10%, and that's what this bump is here. And if you take the value that you calculate at the far field and multiply it by this factor, that gives you the value that you'll get in the near field. And for pretty much all DATV transmissions, with a 1.2 metre dish to QO100, when you're running 50 watts or so, that level is going to exceed the limit. So what does that mean? It means that basically you don't want to have anyone in that location, that's all. But off-axis is a work in progress. I mean, it goes off pretty quickly. That's on axis. It goes off pretty quickly after that. So, yeah, some more calculations need to be done. Just showing you the 8 receivers working at the moment. So that is 2 Winter Hills. And I was just about to modify the second Winter Hill to test the software from Brian, and then it came to be time for the net, so I've not done anything with that. But there were 8 channels earlier on, and now there are very few, so there's not a lot of demoing can be done when there's so few signals to look at. But yeah, it can do stuff, and I think it'll be useful. Right. Sorry, you're looking at that again and not at me. That's probably better, actually. One thing I was going to talk about, apart from the other bits I showed you, is this. See, we were talking about power supplies, or somebody did. You'll remember these things, the flat packs. So I've just done some 3D printing, and this is the result. I'm still waiting for a few parts, but the idea is Anderson power poles on the back, and a mains connector, and that's pretty much it. I've just realised that this power supply, being a 3 kilowatt power supply, can actually exceed the current rating of the power poles at 50 volts. But that's not something I'm intending to do, so it'll have to do as it is. What else was there? I don't think there's much else. Right, who to go to? Dave will tell me in a minute. Or maybe he won't, I don't know. Right. Thank you. G3XOU. Yeah, thanks, Dave. Nothing much else to show, so hope everyone's okay. I had my COVID jab a week ago, by the way. I was fine, so I didn't suffer from it at all. 2 days later, my arm hurt a little bit, but that was it. So all good. That was the Oxford one. I've seen several people who've had a reaction, but mostly people have been fine within a day or so. so it can hit you quite hard, but then you recover. So I'm sure that's much better than what the worst case would be. Okay, just one more thing to show. Thank you, Dave. G0MJW, passing it to G3XOU.
Right, we've got signal here. Sorry for that delay. It's the 15-second delay on the port stand while the Lime SDR sorts itself out. Anyway, hope the audio's okay. I noticed somebody said there was a bad echo on it, so I was monitoring transmission from the on another PC here, and I'm actually got vMix on, and I'm just wondering whether something was feeding about that way. Oh, echo's gone. Thank you very much for that, Mike. Also, good evening to G8XTW, Phil. Long time no speak. Obviously, I get your Christmas card, etc. But from what I recall, you've recently retired. I'm still working myself, and so I don't have a lot of time to play radio these days. I'm afraid I didn't get much from HP9DUG. It's a bit borderline with it. I've only got an 85 centimetre dish for reception there, so that was a problem. Mike, thanks for the info on the near field calculations, etc., and look forward to seeing a bit more on that one. So what you're saying is it's not going to be a function of the elevation. It's purely the elevation doesn't really sort of come into it to the extent that I expected. But anyway, we'll wait and see what happens with that. Anybody know what's happened to Mike, G8DLX? I used to be a member of the Rugby Amateur Radio Club, and I knew Mike very well, and did some work with him on the 70 centimetre repeater there. I just wondered if anybody's heard anything about him there. A long time since years since I've spoken to him. I see that John, G3YQC, who I also know from the Rugby Radio Club when I was living in Northamptonshire. He's about there on the Oscar 100 there. And as regards FedEx, yes, I agree, they're hopeless. I've been waiting for a shipment to come from Denmark for work, and we're now at 3 weeks. And I chased it up, and they kindly sent me an email asking for feedback. So I gave them some feedback, and I actually got an email back from them, much to my surprise, apologising, saying that they've now got rerouting differently, and it's causing all sorts of problems, and they've got huge backlogs and this, that and the other, and the parcels down in Kent somewhere, and it's been there for a week, and the usual story, but never again. That's normally use UPS, but the company that we bought the kit from was using FedEx there, so real headache on that one. Shack, I've got a still of it, just a mo. There's the shack. I've just recently put a workbench in there on the left hand side. The main operating positions on the right there, and I'm just filling the shelves up with test equipment that I've collected over the years, and been sort of putting on one side. Only just recently reorganised this room and decorated it all. So it used to be the old kitchen in the house here, but I've taken it over for the Radio Shack now. So that's that one. Let's move back again. So let's see. It goes now to John, G7JTT to take it. This is G3XOU on the net.
Right. Let's see if we get something come up. Right, there we go. Right, okay. Someone asked, I think it was Mark, was it? Where the uh, voice thing up here, the whatever it was called, spectrum thing at the top there. Anyway, right. If I go over to here, let me just turn that off for a moment. Right. So if you go onto your scenes and do add, you'll see there's a spectralizer thing. If you go on that, I'll show the existing one I've got. You can go into that, and then you can collect it and put it on there, etc. And then if you go into the properties, one of the things you've got on there is you can have it as bars, so it will be along the bottom like that, or you can have it as wire, la-di-da, and or you can have it as the circular bars, which are just stuck into the clock. So and you can change colours and stuff as well on there. So it's just on there. It's one of the scenes or sources rather that you can use within it. Whilst I am on this one, I'll just show you something. This is the stream viewer thing that I've done, and the beauty of it is now, if I go back to SQ, for example, what is SQ? There we go, it's SQ. So all I do is I leave it like that now, and then literally just drag this thing over and stick it on top, and I can type away whatever and it doesn't drop back. So it's just a small cheat to allow me to watch the stream and not have the latency of watching the HTML5, whatever it is. So there we go. Right, anyway, with that I shall put it back to me and pass it round to Jim again. G7NTG in the group, G7JTT.
Right, thank you, John. Just turn off Ryde echoes. Make sure I'm there. Yeah, I'm working. I shan't stay on for very long. We're getting on a bit now. Yes, that was good fun. Every time somebody failed to come on earlier on when the band was very busy, the Ryde would latch on to the adjacent channels, and because it wasn't on a preset that I had it, I had to tune it manually, and it did not take a time to do that, so that's a bit tricky. I'm also told that my lip sync is not quite perfect on this, but I think it's possibly a bit better than it has been in the past. I'm not sure. I'm just going to put my audio on and check. It has been in the past. No, it looked pretty good to me. That's the best lip sync I've got compared to the C920 webcam and using the Lime Mini with the Pi cam and the microphone. That was a mile out, so I'm quite pleased with that. That works well. All I need to do now is work on a decent microphone, so I might get a cheap headset and make an amplifier for that, and that should be quite easy. I'll make it so I can plug it straight into the port stand and a fairly long cable on it. That should be interesting. Right, that's enough from me anyway. So it's now round to James. G0DQH from G7NTG will be there.
Ok, 1, 2, 3. Sorry for a few of you. It was not. The explanation is easy. I have preset for the channels for the BATC Net, and we change channel, and the quick tune was hidden behind the mini tuner window, so I didn't saw that power was down. Okay, well, beginning of this week with the snow here in Switzerland, I look a little bit in the cabinet behind me, and I found a lot of DVD, CD, and from the old time, and I said, I will check if I could still read them. And in fact, the issue was not to read them; it was to find a DVD reader and writer, because my PC, my new PC, don't have one. Okay, so I had to take one out from my old PC and to plug it. And I found this very nice small 2 minutes video I did a long time ago, and of our first test in DVB-T between Geneva and my location with HB9 India Alpha Mike. So the transmission was from his side to me. In 2005, long time ago. If I remember correctly, I was using Oppo DVB-T receiver, already USB. Okay. So that ends my show for tonight, and I wish you all a good evening, and I will enjoy to see you again next week with some hopefully new things. Thank you very much. Have all of you a good night, and keep safe.
HGTZ. Okay, good. Well, good to see it all from everybody. It's good. Just one thing I didn't particularly make clear. Gareth did a very nice 3D print job for me. I turned the screen off so you can actually see, and that's a 3mm aluminium panel. So that's pretty nice. And OFDM videos. I thought I'd just close with this tonight. A few more minutes of.
3VMT, G3VMT, 780G.
What's that? Oh, I see. It's one of them. Right. Yes. OFDM videos. Well, yeah. This one is pretty good. It's OFDM 8 megs. So I think this is some tests we did down in Australia in the early days. I think it was 2000. It just does show the resilience of OFDM going under bridges, and that's 8 megahertz at 2.4 gigahertz. Right, so there we are. I'll leave you with that. Who does it go to? Can't remember. Oh, look at my haircut. Yes, must get a haircut. Can't remember who I passed it to. Jim. Yeah, okay. GI4DOH to take it. G8G.
Thanks, Noel. This is GI4DOH with the group. Yep, I just check in that I am coming through. I tried messing about with the little Bluetooth earpiece there in between, but I can hear okay, but the microphone, I'm not getting anything out of it at the moment, so something to play with offline. So finally, I meant to comment earlier, John and Noel have been commenting on the gardening and cutting the grass. I think, John, you were saying you were happy after every row. Well, it's over a week since I cut the grass here, and it needs to be done again, which is not boding this time of year. It shouldn't be growing that quickly. So by the time I've fed it and all the rest, it looks like it's going to be a lot of grass cutting this year. And of course we get rain nearly every day of the week, which is why the grass is, or why the island is as green as it is. So other things that I've been pottering about with, while at it, Mike, MJW, thanks for the tip about the power supply, the idea of printing a little housing for over the back. I do have a couple of IEC sockets kicking around, and would let me go straight to power poles. And of course I've got multicoloured power poles, as we've all discussed before, saving the red ones for 12 volts. The other thing that, again, the last time I was on talking about was using a Mitsubishi brick for 23 centimeters, and I've got as far as making a printed circuit board, just toner transfer. No plated through holes or anything like that, just in the appropriate places, wires going straight through, soldered on either side, and box already cut with all the holes in the right place. I believe from the comments that I've seen on the microwave group and the rest, despite the funny things where the brick actually has a bit of a gap between the lugs on either side, and I've only seen one case of somebody saying that they filled it with heat conducting paste, with the potential risk of it dribbling out at some stage, and certainly advice from a couple of people not to actually sand it down, but to use it the way the manufacturers intended. I'm not planning to get the maximum out of this. This is just something I am hoping I will get the prescribed 23 dB, which will get me from my 23 centimeter transverter up to enough power for Jim's NTG's little amplifier board, which I got some time ago and haven't actually done anything with. So that's slow progress, but progress it is. Even the heat sink, again, as I say, I'm not trying to get the maximum power out of it, so hopefully that will be adequate. air cooled because I'm not pushing it to its limit. I have tapped the holes where appropriate and all the rest. So that's about it for me. The only other thing about the printing, the standard stress test for 3D printers, this one is done with, I think it's TPU. It's a flexible filament. I don't know whether you can actually see that, how I can actually squeeze the stuff, and I thought that might be better for putting feet on the bottoms of boxes, because there's a little bit of give in it. It's not so rigid, so might protect the furniture. So that's about it from me for this week. I think it should be around next week. I think the club meeting is the week after that. It's good to be able to switch on after a couple of weeks and have everything more or less work, apart from the panic of having to do the restart. But it's nice to know that everything's tentatively stable. So 7-3s to you all. Thanks for the. It's good to be part of a net. To tend to be fairly isolated, hammering Morse code out to people all over the world that I never get to see, so it's somewhat different in this. I think on the revised thing, and I've got the right thing up on the screen here, I think it's G4FKK Martin this time. I had been reading the chat on the streamer, which wasn't the one to be trying to get the information. And so it's about the standing current mic that I might need more heat shrink or sort of heat removal from that. I'll bear that in mind, thanks, and I do have the option of putting a fan on top. So thanks for pointing that out. This is all sort of uncharted territory for me here, so I do value information on that. And thanks for the tip about the port for the Ryde. That's nice to be able to use the quick tune for that. So 7-3s and round to you, Martin. G4 FKK with the BATC group. This is GI4 DOH.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. All copied. I've got noises coming out, and thank you for turning the power up, Michelle. You were even here. You were at D 2.6. I wrote down. So you brought me back in line, as it were. Anyway, all very interesting tonight, and so I'm very impressed with all the work everyone's done. Dave, I am planning to at least do some DVB-T on Saturday on 2 meters. I don't have. I've got a vertical for 70 sems, but I don't think that's good enough. I've got a 11 element tonner on 2, and this homemade, despite the fact it says 150 watt amplifier, that is in fact a homemade 300 watt amplifier in an old tonneau case, the heatsink of which isn't really man enough for the job. But on DVB-T it should, well, it does, it gives me about 10 very clean watts and about 20 reasonably clean watts on DVB-T. So I'll squirt that around a bit on Saturday. Perhaps keep an eye on the chat things to see if anyone's pointing my way. John JTT. I had a look for spectralizer on my OBS, but I require a plug-in. So I've downloaded the plug-in, but it confused me a bit because you just replace the contents of the zip file. You copy those into the where you've installed OBS, but it's got a couple of direct folders and other files that I've already got, and they're different. So and I don't want to lose the other plugins I may have. So I haven't actually fired that up yet. I'm sure I'm worrying over nothing. Mike, thanks ever so much for your comments on the focal point. That's the trouble with coming from top band, you see. 1.5 centimetres is literally nothing on top band. And thanks, John, for your top tip on the bits of string. So I'll do that when I get a moment. I thought this DVB-T, I thought I was just about catching up with people there, but I see Michelle's been doing it since 2005. And yeah, Gareth's print jobs, 3D print jobs are excellent, aren't they, Noel? I've got one of his 3D, you can't really see it with this camera, but around my ports down screen there's a bit of Garethisms. He's also done this little panel here, which it's also got a voltmeter on it. And he did that little escutcheon for my Arduino, which does various other tricks on the ports down. So I really must get one of these 3D printers one day. And I like the bendy ship, Richard. So obviously you can do things like that. Oh, and while we're talking about power supplies, well, you were. This is one I've got here. It's a horrible thing, really, but it does do 50 volts at, what does it say, 38.9 amps. And it's got this curious arrangement on the bottom of it. So I think I'll have to make something to connect. I have tested it using croc clips to connect the mains. You'll be ever so pleased to hear any health and safety officers on frequency. Right, Dave's got to go QRT, so cheerio to you, Dave. So I'll whiz it back round to the other Dave, and thanks for having me. G8, GKQ and the BATC Net, G4FKK, standing by. Cheerio.
G4FKK and the net G8GKQ. Dave G3XOU, if you're still there, one thing I'd say to you is you can run the Lime in transmit all the time and just switch the PA, and then you don't have a problem with the 15 seconds, which is what I do. Yeah, there's been some discussion about the Ryde receiver and the fact that it'll scan down to the channel 500 kilohertz below. Yes, there is a way in the software, very deep in the software, of setting the scan width on the tuner. We haven't done it for Ryde or ports down. It's on my to-do list, but it's all a bit tricky and very deep in the software as far as I'm concerned. I don't tend to play at very low level in the software. I do the high level stuff. Martin, good to hear you're going to be on the air with DVB-T over the weekend. Please take some screenshots and put some details on the forum. It would be good to publicise what you're doing. That would be really useful. And that is a monster power supply you've got there, that's for sure. Okay, well, thanks everybody for coming on. Another interesting net. I do need to look up and see when we've been doing these for a year. I think it's in about a month's time. But really good to see you all, and look forward to seeing you next Thursday, if not over the weekend. Although unfortunately I won't from my hole, as I can't get out portable. So good night all. G8GKQ closing the BATC net and leaving the frequency clear.